Okay, welcome back to the channel. I thought I'd do something interesting tonight. I've been looking at iPhone's portrait mode, and it's interesting. I think they're using basically they're just outlining the person and then putting an edge on it and then just blurring out everything past that using just tricky math. And it's not perfect. I mean, if you look at my ear, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. It only works for stills though, best I can figure. So I figured maybe I could do it in Davinci Resolve as a colorist and do it on motion picture and see if I can do as good or better than what iPhone's doing. Because this does seem to be the way of the future, even though I like a proper lens. And so here's a portrait of me in portrait mode. Yeah, it is what it is. Here's a regular picture of me with that same iPhone. So a quality drop off for sure. Here's a proper portrait of me with a proper lens and a proper camera. So this is real blur and then real depth of field, and it's pretty shallow depth of field. I think the gray whisker is sort of the end of it. Here's that same picture, but I stopped down the lens, so it's an f8, so pretty much everything's in focus. But you can tell even at f8, with a long lens, there is still blur. And then this is a 12mm lens, so this is just the kit lens at 12mm, 3.5, and again, there's still a little bit of blur compared to that. So that's super sharp all the way through. There's no blur at all, whereas there's a little bit of blur. So let's get into it. So if the ideal is this portrait mode right here, and the real ideal that everybody's trying to go for is the actual blurry lens because it's a proper blurry lens, I think we can get somewhere between these two. So let's go ahead and jump in. First thing I did was, for some reason, portrait mode, I'll pull up the scopes. For some reason, portrait mode decided that, let's see here, vector scope, no, I need a waveform. Nope, that's not it, parade. Okay, so for some reason, if you look, we'll close that, we don't need that right now. Let's go ahead and just select Eclipse. Okay, so portrait mode on the left and then a proper portrait with a real lens on the right. Maybe my neck or my chest is almost completely blown out. It's not totally. So I went ahead and did a corrector, just brought the exposure down. I actually like that a lot better. Not a huge change, but a little bit. And I did the exact same corrector for this one. So if you look at these two, there you go. There's your corrector. So they're identical, and that's how you can tell they're basically identical. And so it seems to me a portrait mode is basically just taking a regular picture and then doing some tricky math. It looks like there's a lens distortion adjustment, and then yeah, they're using that Face ID camera as a depth camera to figure out depth. And what's crazy is Davinci Resolve has that same technology built into the software. So here's the fancy portrait, here's a stop down portrait, and then here's the wide angle lens. But if you pull up depth, and I don't know when they added depth map, it's an interesting feature. I'm still getting used to it. I gotta remember to put actually let's delete that. It's add alpha. I don't know what I clicked on. Let's see. Use alpha. There we go. So this is a depth map. So it's the same thing that the iPhone, I believe, is doing. It's just it's deciding stuff. And so obviously I'm the closest thing to the camera, so that's going to be white. And then there's a couch back here and maybe a lamp or something back here, or stand, I guess. Yeah. So I don't want to start on this wide angle though. I think I want to start on this one. This is the real one, right? Yeah. So this is the blurry one. So the idea is to try to get these two to look the same. I mean, honestly, the only real difference is very blurry behind and not. I'm making a different face, it looks like. I'm just moving around a little bit. Again, these are motion picture. You can press play and I'll blink an inappropriate amount of times. So yes, let's hop on this. We'll hop on depth map, set this to alpha, and we'll just add a node. So we'll label this too, just because it's nice. This is blur. Actually, this is depth map, and then this will be blur. And there's a couple ways to blur it. You can use the same equipment, and you gotta make sure you connect the effect. There we go. So we'll go ahead and get rid of depth map preview. So there's two ways to blur it. You can either pull up the blur sharpen. So if you go over here, this is blur, I believe. Yeah, and then sharpen and then mist. But they're all basically the same tool. So, but yeah, if you just crunch the radius up, blur. We need to invert this. There we go. And so we're already pretty far along just by looking at it. So that's pretty wild. So man, I don't even know if I can do better than that. You can see a little bit of separation here, and I like how the shirt is looking actually. But yeah, there's just a little bit of weird hair separation, so it might be worth adjusting. But that's just, yeah, it's just a regular blur. The other way to do it is just let's get rid of this blur, and we'll go into blur. And you can pick lens blur out of the effects. Real apertures, hexagon, it doesn't really matter, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a completely circular curvature. Yeah, there you go. So it's the same thing. It looks like that little strand of hair is messing it up, so we can adjust the depth map just a little bit. Let's see, we'll do isolation. How did isolation do? I mean, it's really aggressive, but sure. And then what, we can do some post-processing. I've been sort of fiddling with it. The only problem I've had with it is the edges. So like, is it gonna let me? Yeah, see, there's like the edges are not perfect, but if you go back to the original image, the edges are also not perfect. But the difference is it's a still, and so in theory you could adjust this. You could, you know, Photoshop or even use Davinci Resolve to adjust it, but you can't really do that in motion picture. But I think I can get it closer. So let's see here. Man, that's actually really close. I actually kind of like that. Let's see if I can get it a little bit more adjusted. Let's see if we can move the far limit a little bit. Nope, that's the wrong way. We'll do the near limit. Yeah, I mean, I buy it. I mean, there's a bit of a halo going on. I don't know if you can see that. There's like this halo edge, so maybe it's worth doing a blur. Yeah, like the shirt is blurring into the background, which is obviously not how the real image looks, because the real image looks like this, and there's no, you know, there's a defined edge. That's the advantage of having a lens, but you know, it's pretty close if we go back and forth. It's actually more blurry on the goofy one, so maybe I'll back up the blur a little bit on the goofy one, maybe 3.5. Oh. There we go. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty close. It's not perfect, but it's pretty. Okay, so let's pull up that clip again. There we go. So is there any other refining we can do? I'm actually pretty happy with that, but let's try to do a bit of a, let's see if we can isolate it. Maybe make it a little bit softer. Okay, let's look at the preview. I don't want that. Let's put that to whatever it was. Okay, so tolerance. Is tolerance going to mess it up? I think tolerance adds a lip to it, right? Actually, tolerance might have done it. And then let's just do expand, contract, and see if we can. The issue is that hard line. I'm kind of into that. That's kind of what the iPhone looks like, but you can see on this side there's like a lip here going on, so maybe not that. So let's just go back to where we were. And maybe put the tolerance down a little bit. I mean, I don't know if I can get better than that. That's pretty solid. Maybe a little bit of blur just to refine the edges a little bit, but I don't even know. I don't even know if it's worth it. So let's see here. Can I change the near limit? So something like that. Let's see if we can play it and it'll stick. Yeah, playing 9 frames per second. I'm blinking like a hummingbird. Yeah, I mean, I buy it. There's a little bit of a separation on the shirt that I feel like could be adjusted, but I'm not mad at that. So let's go ahead and copy that onto this node and see if we need to do any adjustments. It doesn't look like we do. Yeah, I mean, we could back up the target depth a little bit. There we go. So let's look at the wide angle lens. I mean, it's not perfect right there, but I'd buy it. You know, unless you're looking for it, I don't think you're gonna see it. And I think a way to cheat that a little bit is to back off the blur a little bit. So let's call this 2.75. Yeah, still very blurry, but I think it sells better. So what we can do is we can look at that. And so I believe the top right is going to be our real one. And so it's going to be portrait. So it's going to be portrait, real, fake portrait, and then fake wide angle portrait. You know, I kind of buy it. So yeah, you know, there's also a color difference. Obviously, I feel like I like the colors a lot more on this one. The color just seems a lot more consistent on this one. It seems a little bit blown out on this one. I can fix that. But this, I mean, this is supposed to be portrait mode, and my nose has never been redder. And then look at that. There's a zit right in the middle of my forehead, which you can't even really see in the other images. So shame on me. And that other zit, man, that's what happens when you eat candy for me. Yeah, but as far as sharpness goes, as far as the image goes, I'd say, you know, the best case scenario is always have a proper camera with a proper lens that can do proper portrait stuff. But short of that, I don't think there's anything wrong with, I mean, I honestly don't have a problem with things not being blurry. I think there's a time and a place, but if you want to get something blurry and you don't have the ability to use a proper portrait lens, you can do it in Davinci Resolve, and I'd say the results are actually better than what iPhones can do. The difference is iPhones do it in software in real time, and I had to do this by hand, and it wasn't hard, but it wasn't easy. It took some figuring out. Yeah, so, you know, if you're all about that blurry background, here's another way to do it without having to actually have a blurry background. So, yep. Let me see here. Let me show you the difference, because that's what everybody cares about, you know. So there's all the adjustments. There's no adjustments. All the adjustments, no adjustments. You know, it weirdly, it makes the image look sharper, which is the weirdest thing, because the stuff that's sharp is really sharp. I didn't apply any sharpening or anything. Oh, and while I'm here, I might as well fix the exposure, because the exposure seems a little high. So we'll do that ahead of that, just so we don't mess with the, oh, actually, I don't know if it's gonna mess with it or not. Well, we'll find out, I guess. We'll just bring the whole thing down just a tad. Yeah, I didn't like how that worked. We'll just do the highlights. We'll cheat. Oh, it's thinking. Hold on. It's doing too many things at once, so we'll just go down just a little bit. A little bit more. Something like that. Yeah, I think that's a win. So once again, if you wanna, oh, I missed one. No, I didn't miss one. The computer's just thinking hard. Sorry, computer. Boom. So yeah, there's your iPhone. There's your proper portrait. There's a cheater portrait, and there's a cheater on a wide angle lens. And honestly, I'll take all of them. I don't even have a problem with this one, other than I feel like I look like Santa Claus in the nose and face area. But yeah, that's it. So was this helpful? Let me know what you guys think. See you next time.